Right now, though, we want to bring on our buddy, Jay Gruden, the former head coach here in Washington.
On air and on the road, Jay Gruden is driven by the Ted Britt Automotive Group, Ted Britt Ford and Chantilly in Fairfax, your F-150 headquarters, Ted Britt Lincoln and Chantilly, and Ted Britt Chevrolet in Sterling, all home to Ted Britt for life. Lifetime vehicle coverage. See and shop them all at tedbritt.com.
Jay, I posted a poll about this during the game yesterday. There's been a lot of consternation about the Commanders having a domed stadium built here in D.C., and a lot of people love the elements and like that old-school feel. What's your take on the AFC title game in the second half yesterday? Was the game better or worse for that weather?
I think it was worse. I don't think it's part of the game, really. I mean, you have a blizzard like that. I mean, rain and a little bit of snow I can understand, but if you ever try to throw a frozen ball or kick a frozen ball, it's very difficult. It's really not football, in my opinion. I mean, I like the elements. I like the outdoor part of it, but sometimes it could be a little extreme, and I thought that was a little extreme yesterday.
So if you were going into a weather game like that, where it was okay in the first half, but a bit of a rock fight anyway, and then the second half, inclement weather, do you plan differently just in terms of game planning? Do you care more about which side has the better wind, or are you just kind of going with your normal stuff and adjust accordingly?
Yeah, you have to plan on the wind for sure. For the fourth quarter, you want the wind, and then I think play calling is obviously affected the big way. It becomes more of a 10-yard passing game. You got to keep everything within 10 or 15 yards. And you got to obviously establish a running game somehow, but the defense knows that too, and they're stacking the box. And you can't work your one-on-one matchups on a go route. You saw Denver try it and threw a miserable interception right in the guy's hands. So you just have to take your medicine, and hopefully you punt and play the field position battle and try to get a turnover like the Patriots got against Denver.
Jay Gruden with us on Grant and Danny after Championship Sunday. I find New England just so disrespected and undervalued. I can't tell you how many of my buddies were texting me last night. I got a buddy who's a Jags fan who's like, oh, if only we could have played New England, we would have whooped them. And it's kind of the thought everybody has, right? Or like the Seahawks are going to bludgeon them. And maybe you feel the same way, but this idea of their regular season, they didn't play anybody, I think is flawed. They had 5 games where if they go a different way, those teams finish over 500. So now you don't have this weird stat about not beating any teams that didn't have winning records. I think they had 1 or 2 all year. And now they've won 3 of those in the playoffs, and people belittle them because apparently C.J. Stroud isn't a real quarterback now. I know Stidham was a very fortuitous thing that they got yesterday, and everyone's acting like the Chargers was a mulligan gimme game as well. But what's your thought on New England and just kind of the disrespect for a team that has gotten to a Super Bowl?
Well, they have gotten pretty fortunate scheduling. That's for sure. They played the Chargers without an offensive line. Then they played C.J. Stroud, who threw 5 interceptions, had 5 turnovers a week before, and then they got a backup quarterback who hadn't played in 2 years. So that is a very gratuitous, that's a very good schedule to have. It's not their fault, but they're still winning the right way. They're able to run the ball. They have 2 good backs. They have 2 excellent corners. Their defense is playing extremely well. Vrabel does a great job of coaching that defense. And offensively, Josh McDaniel does a good job of calling plays and getting everybody involved. Stephon Diggs, Booty, and the rest of those guys, they have a very good, well-rounded football team. They can hurt you a lot of different ways. It's not their fault who they played, but they did beat people soundly and are now in the Super Bowl, and I think they deserve to be there. They're the best team in the AFC.
How is this defense doing this, Jay? Regular season, they were good. They were good enough to beat up on some, bad offenses, et cetera. But this is another level how dominant they've been on this postseason run.
They're very good at rushing the passer with 4 guys, and then Vrabel's always been a good simulated blitz guy. He might bring a secondary guy, but only rush 4 guys and drop people and still play zone and confuse quarterbacks and eat up the back. And then, defensively have 2 very good corners in Carlton Davis and Gonzalez. And, Kayvon Chason has done a very good job making a name for himself after having a miserable early start to his career in Jacksonville. And obviously, Harold Landry's a good player, and they got good linebackers that can stop the run. So they really have no weakness on defense. They can stop the forward pass, and they can stop the run.
It's amazing, too, Jay, because they didn't play at this level defensively most of the year. Now they're shoving it. And to your point, Denver had a backup quarterback. You mentioned the Chargers line, but they had that line every week, and they were beating good teams and barely losing down the stretch. And then, obviously, they made C.J. Stroud look terrible. But I can't believe the gear they've found here. Mike Vrabel and their coordinator deserve a lot of credit here because they've gone from like a good defense to an elite defense at the right time of the year.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. A lot of teams come playoff time and come the end of the season, they start to pick up steam. They gain a lot of confidence, and it's like a freight train. They just keep moving along and playing a lot of confidence. And getting the ball back for their offense, and then Drake May's doing a good job of protecting the football. He had a couple turnovers in one of the playoff games, but yesterday he didn't have any, and he can make plays with his legs, and they're very complimentary in what they do, offense and defense and special teams. They got a blocked field goal, so all three phases are contributing in a big way.
Jay Gruden with us here on G&D. I want to get to the NFC title game in a second here, Jay, but in terms of New England maybe winning the Super Bowl, what's their game plan? What's their best way to go about trying to beat a really good Seattle team? How do you see this one going potentially in terms of from preparation standpoint for New England?
Yeah, they're going to do what they do. They're going to try to rush forward, get after Sam Darnold, and confuse them on the back end. They'll mix in some man coverages and some zones that try to get Sam to throw it to the wrong team and hit them a lot. And obviously, they got to do a good job stopping Kenneth Walker III. So that's obviously they're going to be their game plan, and they're very good at doing that. They can stop the run very good, and they can rattle quarterbacks. They've done it all season long. Then offensively, I think Josh will have a couple tricks up his sleeve, but for the most part, they're going to just play like they've been playing, and running the ball with Stevenson and Henderson, and then the play actions that did Drake May hurt you with his legs like he has done the last 10, 12 weeks.
Yeah, I was glad that they finally involved the quarterback run game and that May just was willing to get out of the pocket and run a little bit in the second half yesterday because it seemed like it was going to be a necessity. Look, I get how bad the weather was after halftime, but they completely shoved it on New England's offense and passing game in the first half. There's not really a good weather excuse there. May was not sharp. They didn't look good. The week before that, they didn't throw the ball that well. I know it was a bad weather game as well. What are you seeing from the Patriots passing game and from May in that regard? Because it does feel like after an MVP regular season, he has not been nearly at that level in the playoffs, and they might need him to beat Seattle.
Yeah, I've seen a quarterback that played some elite defenses back to back to back. We talked about the teams that they played. They weren't very good, but they did play the Texans with an elite defense and Denver with an elite defense. So those teams are tough to throw the ball on and run the ball against. I mean, they're two of the best defenses in football. So I think Seattle proves another great challenge for them, but they just got to stay patient, try to get the running game going, obviously get Henderson out in space in the passing game, and then work on Stephon Diggs in the slot, do some things of that nature. But, don't count on Drake May to have a 350-yard passing performance. I think their recipe for success is going to be run the ball, throw for about 150, have Drake May rush for about 50 to 60 yards, and win a game 20-17.
Let's go to the NFC title game. Just what did you make of that matchup? Third time was a charm. Just another epic game between these two teams that are so evenly matched.
Yeah, it was a great game, and Sam Darnold really shut up a lot of people. I mean, he's been getting badgered and butchered for a long time. Oh, he can't play in a big game, but he proved it. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and another stellar game, and his 29th win in 2 years, I think. So you got to give him a lot of credit, and obviously the coaching staff for Seattle a lot of credit, too, for putting him in great situations. They attacked the Rams' coverage, double moving safeties, doing a lot of good things, and Jigba's, just getting him unique ways to get the football, whether it's motioning to stacks and getting them on linebackers, getting them on safeties, whatever it might be. So hats off to Seattle's offensive coordinator and the coaching staff and Sam Darnold for sure.
Yeah, that coordinator's Clint Kubiak, who's a longtime Shanahan guy, but he's someone I'm ready to give a head coaching job to. Like, if I'm Brady on the call yesterday of that game, I'm talking to him before I leave the stadium. I'm running the Raiders search. I got the number one quarterback coming out, Mendoza at 1-1. Like, how do they get Njigba so open? I mean, they're designed. I love the play where they got Shaheed deep for 51 yards, Kenneth Walker on a couple of those well-designed screens. They had a really, really good plan.
Yeah, they did have a really good plan, and they kind of had they're reading the Rams' mail, I think. They knew the coverage they were going to be in, and they attacked them the right way, and obviously got Njigba open quite a few times, and Kenneth Walker, like you mentioned. So, yeah, I mean, Clint had them all dialed in, but really it's still up to the quarterback and the pass protection to make the reads and make the throws. And then Njigba and the rest, and Cooper Kupp had a big touchdown. He split the zone coverage. So they played zone. They hit them hard. They played man-to-man. They got them, and hats off to Darnold and Clint.
Jay Gruden with us here on G&D. So both coaches, though, really are able to get their number one target open all the time. It just, I'm amazed by it. Like when a guy's the number one on the scouting report, the whole world knows that Puka Nacua is getting targets. They know that JSN's getting targets, and that's still a challenge, and it's a live chess match. I just have such appreciation for both of these coaches, how good they are at making sure their number one guy gets fed, Jay.
Yeah, you have to understand how to attack zone coverages because, you can't just double a guy in zone coverage. You got to attack areas of the field, high-low linebackers, high-low corners, get after safeties, whatever it might be. And that's what Sean does, and that's what obviously Clint did yesterday. And then when you play man-to-man, you have to maximize your opportunities and get them outside in the matchup that you want. or inside, wherever it might be. So zones, you got to attack the right people, and then man-to-man, you got to get after the guy with the right people. It's easy. It's very easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Jay Gruden with us on Grant and Danny. What did you think of the taunting call on Tariq Woolen, who stepped on the Rams sideline? It gave the Rams an automatic first down on a 4th and 13 down by 11.
And then you got beat for a touchdown on the next play. That's
Yep.
well deserved. You know what I mean? That's karma right there for that poor kid. You know, it was a very big mistake in a critical situation. Fortunately, it didn't cost the Seahawks a game. Otherwise, he probably would not be a Seahawk for very much longer. But they got the win, but that was a critical mistake by the young fella, and I'm sure he won't be doing that again.
Are you cool with, do you like the taunting enforcement, the fact that they have really gotten more aggressive? Danny and I talked about this last segment. I hate it. I think talking trash should never change a game in that moment. I think he went way above and beyond what is normal, stepping on the sideline, and he was acting like a moron. I'm not saying anything other than that. But 4th and 13, I can't just gift you 15 yards and change the NFC title game because he was saying mean words. In this league, I can't do that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but we're gifting people a lot of things. They gifted, Denver 2 pass interference calls in overtime that gifted them the victory. So there's been a lot of gifts this year by the referees, and you just got to hold on to your hat when you're coaching in the NFL and hope to goodness your team doesn't be put in that position to be on the wrong side of a referee flag.
It's just so crazy to me, though, that's the point of emphasis. You know what I mean? Like the emotions are running high. These guys are getting in 70 car wrecks a week, right? With all the hitting and the plays that they run and how incredibly physical this game is. So yeah, every once in a while some emotions might bubble over. I understand. Swing it on somebody. Let's throw the flag. Let's absolutely throw the book at somebody. But as Grant said, mean words being just a bridge too far for a league that until not that long ago would celebrate, guys getting their bell rung and headbutting each other and all this other kind of stuff. Just seems crazy to me that's the point of emphasis that they're going so hard with. But that's just my 2 cents.
I agree. But, you know it going in. It's not like the coaches don't tell the players, hey, man, there's no taunting. When the play's over, it's over. Shut your mouth and get to the huddle. I know that's the rule. So just follow the rules, just like every other rule you have in pro football.
What did you think of Peyton going for a 4th and 1 instead of going up 10-0 on New England? As it turned out, obviously, it backfired. But I'm team go for a lot of these 4th downs. In that game, it did feel like first team to 17 or 20 was going to win. Where were you at on that?
I thought it was a miserable decision. It's something that'll haunt them forever because, if you look at the first 2 or 3 drives New England had, they couldn't barely get a yard. And now you're going to go up 10-0 and the weather's starting to come in and you're going to make, a Drake May, a second-year quarterback, score 2 touchdowns to beat you with the number 1 ranked defense. I mean, you got to take the points early in the game. 4th and 1, 4th and inches, 4th and 2. I mean, it was going to be a 31-yard field goal. I know they missed a couple later in the game, but 10-0 is 2-score game. I mean, you got to take that and be happy with it. 4th and 1 is not easy to get. I mean, the Patriots' run defense is very, very good, and they play very good coverage. They got good guys that can play man-to-man. They're expected man-to-man with the play that they called. They got zone, they got screwed, and cost them the game probably.
So, Jay, how much does context play into it? Because you touched on the point that I made, which is this is a bit of a rock fight of a game before the weather comes. Like, I'm thinking a handful of years ago, like if I'm playing Jay Gruden's Cincinnati offense, a field goal is not going to win that game against you, right? I need a touchdown. I'm going to be more aggressive. But if I'm playing that kind of game that's potentially bad weather, they haven't done much on offense, 2 scores all of a sudden is a much bigger deal to me. Does that play into your decision-making process there?
100%. You got to know what your defense is all about, what the other offense is looking like, and your scatter report points to, Drake May has not lit it up in the postseason so far, so points are going to be hard to get for the New England Patriots. So let's get as many as we can, whether they're field goals or touchdowns. Let's get 10. Let's get to 13 and win the game 13-10, 13-6. And that might have been enough if they kick that field goal. Who knows? But definitely you want to stack up the points when you can get them and not put your team at risk by going forward on unnecessary 4th and 1, 4th and 2 calls. No matter what the analytics say, you got to take the points.
Jay, the early line right now is Seattle as a 4.5-point Super Bowl favorite over New England. I know it's early and you got a lot of number crunching to do, I'm sure, but what side of that would you be on, do you think?
I would probably be on Seattle right now. I just think Sam Darnold's playing with a lot of confidence, man, and they have the best receiver arguably in pro football in Smith and Jigba. So I like that matchup, and obviously Kenneth Walker's playing a lot better now. So I like the balance that they have on offense, and then defensively, they do an excellent job with the pressure packages that they have and the pass coverage they play with. They're very well coached. They don't give up big plays very often. And I just like where they're at as a team mentality, the Seattle Seahawks, to win it by a touchdown.
What's their weakness? Talking about the Seahawks.
Defensively, they gave up some hits last night against the Rams, so hopefully that's probably their weakness right now. And obviously, still Sam Darnold's turnover-prone guy from history standpoint would be a weakness, but he's done a good job the last couple of weeks of protecting the football. If he can protect the football and the Seattle Seahawks don't give up big plays, then I expect them to win pretty easily.
Jay Gruden on Grant and Danny every Monday. We've got him on throughout the playoffs here, 3 p.m. Jay, I want to ask you about a couple of the coaching items over the weekend. Mike McCarthy got the Steelers job. That feels like a hell of a landing for Mike McCarthy. I mean, it's like the buddy who, ends up dating the girl that everybody thinks is the coolest and most awesome and most beautiful. Like, good for Mike McCarthy, man. What do you think of that fit?
I think it's a good hire, man. He's won a lot of games as a head football coach. He had 3 12-win seasons at Dallas and a bunch of division championships. They didn't get it done in the playoffs, obviously, but from his resume at Green Bay to Dallas, he's been a very successful guy, and he can grow quarterbacks. He had Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, so he's done a good job with good quarterbacks, and unfortunately he didn't get it done in the playoffs. But I think getting an established coach like that, a leader, I think will do good for Pittsburgh. They don't need another 29-year-old kid who hasn't never been a head coach in the National Football League. They need some stability there, and I think they got it with Mike.
Speaking of never been a head coach in the National Football League, Phil Rivers took his name out of consideration for the Bills job. That's not how that was supposed to go, as far as I could tell. It's maybe you should be a high school football coach for a little bit longer, maybe be an assistant somewhere before you're ready for a head coaching gig. Not him taking his name out, maybe them taking his name out. What do you make of that situation?
Philip Rivers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crazy one, but he is a smart guy. It's just a matter of, he's got the 25 kids at home, so I don't know if he wants to be a head coach. I think high school football is a great thing for him because he can still spend time with his kids, but he would be a good head coach, really. There's not a lot of ex-quarterbacks who made a lot of money that want to do the head coaching grind. You got to be very, very committed to your craft to do that, and there is no football, there's no watching your kids play sports, all that stuff. You are in the office very many hours throughout the week. So I think it was a good decision for him to pull his hat.
Hey, of the other 5 hirings that have actually happened outside of McCarthy that we asked you about, what's your favorite? John Harbaugh to the Giants, Kevin Stefanski to the Falcons, Robert Saleh, Titans, Jeff Hafley, Dolphins, Jesse Minter, Ravens. One of those stand out to you?
No, not really. It's just way too early for these guys. Harbaugh, probably the Giants, is probably the easiest one just because he's been a coach for so long and an experienced guy that'll help Jackson Dart. Hopefully he gets a good offensive coordinator and help him develop a little bit, but that's probably the easiest one. I'm not very familiar with the other young offensive guys, Minter and Hafley or whatever they are from the Dolphins. Hafley was at Boston College for 4 or 5 years, didn't work out, and he's only been a coordinator, I think, for 2. So that was a weird hire to me, but I don't know. You just have to wait and see who their coordinators are. That's going to be the most important thing for these young coaches, who they have to help them. Like Ben Johnson went out and got a hell of a defensive coordinator. You're going to have to do that if you're one of these young head coaches.
What do you make of the fact that so many teams didn't even interview, including here in Washington, Mike Vrabel last year? I just find that astounding. You can decide that he's not the guy that you want. That's perfectly reasonable to me. But so many people just didn't even bother to pick up the phone, and he had to sit out a year. And there are so many coaches that don't seem to be pretty special, and that guy is pretty good. The second straight stop now that he's kind of turned the program around. Just what do you make of that in general?
Yeah, I don't know. Mike is a very good football coach. He's very good players coach. Players love to play for him. He busts their ass during practice, but gets the most out of them, and obviously they love playing for him. That's important. They have a lot of respect for him as a person and as a player. And then he's got, he walked into a gold mine. He got Drake May. It's very fortunate for him. And he got a good offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniel, and then they picked up 7 good defensive starters off free agency, and now they're all of a sudden competitive, and they're a very good team. You have a good quarterback, you have a good running game, offensive line, a good offensive coordinator. You have 7 new starters on defense, and here we are, compete for the AFC East, and then going to the Super Bowl. It's a quick fix. They were able to do it. I think that's something a lot of teams are going to try to do. They got to get a good young quarterback. They got to pick up some key starters on defense and free agency, something Washington can do. 5 or 6 of those starters on defense and free agency, and they'll be right back in the thick of things next year.
Jay, thank you. As always, good insight. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Thank you.
There's Jay Gruden on Grant and Danny here on The Fan.
On air and on the road, Jay Gruden is driven by the Tedbert Automotive Group, Tedbert Ford in Chantilly and Fairfax, your F-150 headquarters, Tedbert Lincoln in Chantilly, and Tedbert Chevrolet in Sterling, all home to Tedbert for life, lifetime vehicle coverage. See and shop them all at tedbert.com.